This computer will rule the world.
Hello there, and welcome back to Hold and Modify. It's Q, yes, YouTube's most poorly produced, underproduced channel. And what are we doing again today? Well, what we do a lot on this channel is creating visual effects, or 3D, or CGI, or whatever you want to call it, from the 1990s era, specifically the early 1990s era. With the recent release of that new TRON Ares movie, I know some of you liked it, some of you hated it. We're not going to talk about the movie. What we're going to talk about, though, is something that was brought up in the comment section below. Hey, Q, I know you've made videos with TRON content before because you're such a TRON super freak. Do you think maybe you could show us using early 90s software? So some of those neat tricks to try and make it look just a little bit better? Kind of like the last video did, maybe make some of the TRON stuff not look so early 90s, apply some of those modern tricks to the rendering. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, sure, why not? Let's try that. You know, for a change, by the way, this is stuff that I have actually created myself, with the exception of the carrier and the solar sailor. I did not create those. But I actually modeled this Tron World stuff and the buildings, the tank, the light cycle, and the recognizer. Not that that's difficult, but yeah, let's get this stuff loaded in here and see what we can do with it. Let's have a little fun with it. And for this, we are going to be doing square pixels because a lot of you guys like me to upload the images or show off the images, and keeping it square pixels keeps it Mac and Windows friendly, modern computer, modern monitor friendly, instead of messing with the kind of weird aspect of NTSC. Now for resolution, of course, we can always play with high resolutions, but again, the point of this channel is to recreate early 90s 3D and all the amazing things you can do with that old kind of 3D pixel art from back then. So we're gonna keep these resolutions low. I get asked this often, it's like, why don't you just render higher res? And I'm like, no. There was no higher res back then. No one was doing that. It would take way too long. I mean, yes, there was 3D and CGI being done in early films that was rendered at, 1K or even 2K, but that would take an astronomical amount of time. So we don't do that here. And in fact, I am going to go for a custom resolution. We're going to get a little fancy on you here. We're going to do 720 by 405. And we're going to make sure our segment memory is increased. All right, so we got one segment. So that way, if we look through the camera here, we've got kind of like a nice, see these little dash lines here, these little gray dash lines? Kind of our standard cinematic, 16 by 9-ish type thing going on. That's what we want to do. One of the things I want to check is, well, what the heck is this grid? As you can see here, what is it doing? Now remember, this is early 1990s 3D software, guys. So please excuse the navigation controls and hotkeying and whatnot. There's just not a lot of it, okay? You're kind of limited to what's going on here. But I mean, this is version 5.0 of Lightwave. It had come a long way. This was, as I mentioned in my prior video, this was the climax, you could argue, of old school Lightwave or old school 3D rendering technology before they kind of switched over to the more modern features. So here's our grid. And so as you can see, that's a very large grid. So I'm not really sure what's going on there, right? Well, that's because I originally designed this way back in the day to be scalable, right? So I want to be able to like size this up. So we do need to size this up because we want to have some playground here, right? If each of these is 5 meters, right? This is a lot though already. This is pretty huge. So we gotta kind of get our scale in mind. Maybe if we go to the top view here and we'll zoom out and get an idea. Yeah, let's kind of lock it down. In fact, this isn't even square. Now, why isn't this square? Why didn't you make something as like Tron square? It's all zeros and ones, man. Well, that's because this was probably created back on my Amiga and on a CRT display, and this was square. So there you go. That's why it's not square. Regardless, now if we press F9 and bring that render up, we're going to see, yes. So now we're starting to see a grid, but this is getting us somewhere, but we need to, for scale and reference, like I need to make that grid smaller, obviously, right? So let's bring in our light cycle. Let's get the exciting light cycle in here. So as you can see, the light cycle is rather large. I mean, that's coming in, yeah, that's like almost, a 3-meter light cycle? That's pretty big. I mean, a human is like 1.8 average, 6 foot, whatever. So yeah, that's a little big. And it's also not on the center pivot. Look, like it's over here. Yeah, what's up with that, Q? Why didn't you model this on center? It's okay, we can just fly over to Modeler and fix that. All right, so now we are in the land of Modeler. Look at that, isn't that amazing? We can see here that it's not centered, guys, it's not. So we're gonna go ahead and smash F2, plop, and now it's centered. Isn't that great? But now it's centered and it's under the ground plane. So we're gonna press F3 and tell it to rest on the ground. So we do that, look at that, ta-da, yay. Now that it's centered, we can go ahead and version this up again. I don't know why the last version wasn't centered, Q, but now here we go. Let's go and center this. Version 3, Yay. Okay, back over to Lightwave. So now that we're back here in Lightwave, we can just go ahead and replace, and ta-da, look at that. Look at our light cycle all nice and happy in the center. So let me go ahead and start loading in. Well, no, the whole reason we did this, right, was to try and get an idea of the scale of that grid. So let's grab the camera here and bring her in a little bit. I mean, yeah, obviously this is already, you can tell with this camera with the size of the light cycle that this is a really small Tron world. We don't even need to do a render. We can just see that right here with the ground. So let's go ahead and make the ground bigger, a lot bigger. I want to push this way out. That feels good. I don't know, that feels about right. So now let's fire off a render. And there you go. So yeah, there's the little light cycle in here. Here's a grid. I mean, obviously the grid is still too big, but I want to give us some terrain to play with. I don't want to be in this tiny little box. So let's move on. And the first thing we need to do is find that Tron ground. And if you look here, there's a couple procedural textures on it. Can you guess what they are? Yeah, grid. Isn't that amazing? It's set to world coordinates, guys. This way I can scale the ground up and down, and the texture size remains a constant. It doesn't adapt to the scaling of the polygon. So we're gonna go ahead and just cut this in half. Pretty simple, right? Pretty darn simple. After doing that amazing halvings of the values, yeah, that's feeling a little better. It feels a little more Tron-y, little Tron grid sized. Now, there's a big black void back there. Let's fix that. I believe I've got some walls, some Tron walls. If we go into our world. So yeah, now we're just gonna go ahead and place these walls. I'm not gonna be super fancy with this, guys, and spend lots of time making sure it's hyper accurate and lined up on the edges. That's not what this is about. I'm gonna put that over there. And you might even be thinking, well, if you're not gonna see over here, if the camera's not looking this way, don't waste geometry. Don't be like an Unreal Engine and start wasting and being inefficient. Don't just start throwing stuff all over the place because, you know, you can. And make sure the stuff is still all on the ground. So now when we take the camera, by the way, we have a pretty wide angle lens. For light cycles, you know, the wide angle lens is pretty slick. Kind of gives them that, you know, sports car look. You do a little dutching of the camera and you're like, ooh, neat. So like we'll do that, but we're gonna bring this out a little more like that. We're gonna grab our light cycle, turn off the Y axis. We don't want to really mess with the Y axis on this stuff. So we're gonna bring him out here like this. Ah, I see now. I see. It's starting to look actually fairly early 1980s, isn't it? Like kind of like the original Tron. I mean, there it is. There's like original Tron. Ta-da! Here's your before. Remember on the last video I didn't include the before image? Well, here's the before image. You can just take a screenshot now. Yeah, that's a look. I mean, sure. One of the other things I have though, I might be able to add to this, and don't worry, we're not done. So I got some trails here, guys, right? So Tron Trail Blue. Let's load that up. This could be a disaster. I have no idea. See, I created the Tron Trail. You're like, well, what about the Tron Trail? Yeah, well, I did. I actually created the trails that the bikes make. So we're gonna parent this to the light cycle. So there we go. And then we're gonna move only on Z. Yes, only on Z. We're gonna smash it right in there. And it looks like I need to size it down. Yeah. Okay. So there we go. Look at that Tron Trail. Go ahead and press F9 on that sucker. Oh, look at that. Look at this. We got some Tron Trail going on. That was fat. Look, boom. This is it. Motion picture time. We're ready to go. Isn't it neat that I somehow got the trail lined up just with the ground where the ground meets the wall here? Look at that. It's like, that's bizarre. Bad form. Need to frame that better. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and yeah, just a little nudge of the camera right there, and we're gonna bring her down here. I kind of want to cheat it though. I don't want to see like that the trail ends, but then again, in the movie the trails did end. But I want to get a little bit of altitude here because I do want to drop us back down. Just a touch. Just get her down there. Yeah, a little more action-y. There we go. Little like that. And again, we're going to be saving scene. I almost said clear scene there. That would have just been great. One of the things we're missing here is if we go, let's go to like one of the wall segments, like Tron Wall 2. Who is Tron Wall 2? You're over here. Okay, so Tron Wall 2, I want to go to edge color, go small. Yeah, let's do this. I don't know, like, I mean, it's Tron, right? So let's do pink because sure. I just want to see what this looks like. I'm not even sure what I'm doing. So yeah, there it is. Look, we kind of got that Tron outlining effect. Purple or blue? What do you think? I mean, I do like the color contrast, right? I mean, blue just kind of keeps it boring. Maybe a little less purple. So I like to do numbers I can remember. So let's do 220, 130, 130 so that we can go to the other wall here and turn this on, set to small. So now we should have these Tron walls, at least with some of that kind of like Tron-y outliney look. Okay, sure. Garish, yes, but this is early 90s CGI, right? It's supposed to look garish. Now, I did promise to add some more modern flourishes to this to make it look a little more something something. So we're gonna do that. We're not done yet. Let's give him a little friend. Everybody needs a friend, right? Oh, look at that. And like magic, he's got a little buddy in the background. Giving him there. We got red and blue. Classic, right? Yeah, classic. That pink is really bothering me though. I don't know about the pink. Enough of the pink. You stop thinking about the pink. So we've got these two guys. They're racing against each other. They're gonna kill each other. We don't know. But we're getting close here. I feel it. We're screaming early 1990s pixel art. So let's give them a little motivation to make sure they keep doing what they're supposed to be doing. Let's, of course, load in the recognizer. We live in a time today where this is going to be a quick little dialogue I'm going to give here. All right, so just deal with it. At no point in history can cinematic style visual effects be more accessible than it is, right? For the home user, it's insane. Like even 10 years ago, sure, hell, 20 years ago, visual effects software for the home computer existed. I mean, we're using 30-year-old visual effects software for a home computer with this video series. And yeah, it's possible, but the limitation of course was rendering, right? All the rendering we have to do, it takes so long, the CPU rendering and all of that. And it's killing us. Like you could not have a render farm at home without spending millions and millions of dollars. And I know I'm exaggerating that number, but it was a lot of money. Then here comes the wonderful land of GPU rendering, and GPU rendering is just, oh my gosh, it has made it so that anyone at home can just do amazing visual effects on their home computer. And that is so freaking cool. And yeah, of course, Unreal is real time. It's even faster than GPU rendering. But again, if you actually adjust Unreal Engine to do more true cinematic rendering with, super high quality motion blur, depth of field, anti-aliasing, or lots of things, it's no longer real time. It has to actually render kind of like regular GPU rendering for conventional effect softwares. But anyway, that's enough of that little quick ramble. I'm just thinking we do live in exciting times because we can also go back and do 1990s software, right? And have a lot of fun with it. So yeah, here's our recognizer, and he looks a little weird. What's he missing? Yeah, he's missing his red lines. He's just a big green thing right now. So let's go back to our recognizer and yep, turn on our poly edges, set to small. And these are just straight up red. I remember these. They're just like a kind of like a moody red. We'll soften it just a touch. There we go. That's a little better. That's fine. So one thing you'd see, right? We've got this kind of classic looking 90s, or 80s Tron thing going on here. We whipped this up not too much time. Let's start adding some of those modern flourishes I was talking about. So the first thing we can do here is we could turn on trace shadows, go to our lights, and just see what we've got. We've got lots of ambient, which I'm actually going to leave up for this wonderful world of Tron. We have one light, it's a ray trace light, and it's just set to 100%. Cool, we've got shadows now, but that's a ray trace light, and I get it. I mean, it's doing its ray trace thing, but we're trying to make this, again, like the last video, we want to do some more modern effects. And also you can see how close this recognizer actually is to the wall, which is fine. He could be whooshing. He just came in down from top and he's dropped down and he's chasing these guys. So, but what we're going to do is take that light and we're going to switch it, right? We're going to switch it to a spotlight. We're going to switch it to a shadow map. We're going to make it really fuzzy though. We're going to tighten up its cone angle a bit to make it a little more like a distant light that way. Already, see how we've kind of softened that up a bit. You got your classic kind of shadow map look. Now, one of the problems with the shadow map is the resolution, and you can see how the shadow from these light cycle trails there's a gap there. It almost looks like they're floating. That's because our shadow map resolution is not enough. There's a solution to that though. Maybe the trails don't cast shadows, because that does look a little weird. I mean, the trails are supposed to be kind of little electro gizmos, right? And maybe they don't actually emit shadows. So let's go ahead and turn all the shadow options off. And then we'll go back to our shadow map light, and we're going to get wild with this. So we're going to do a 1.4 megabyte shadow map. So yeah, that's definitely pulled it back in. It's getting a lot more accurate, and we kind of have like a nice little soft shadow gag. So that helps with that. Notice that we're not relying on any other light source. We have one light source, and we're using that ambient to fill in the rest. Now I'm going to turn on trace reflection, and we're going to go to that ground. And it already has some global reflectivity turned on. I'm actually going to turn that off. We're going to go grab that luminosity texture. So what is this at? This is 555.01. Okay, so we're going to go to reflectivity. We're going to go to procedural texture, and we're going to do grid. And we're gonna do 0.01555. So what I'm doing with this grid texture, so you know what's going on, like I've gone in here and I've sized it up and made sure it matches the other texture, but I'm setting the value to 0. You're like, well, Q, why are you setting the value to 0? This is so that the white lines on the Tron grid don't reflect. I just want the darker ground to reflect. So we're gonna go ahead and give it a little bit of, the specular's fine. We're gonna go ahead and give it that reflection there. I've turned on color highlights, so we're gonna keep the glossiness pretty tight. Just doing that, I think this might give us already a more kind of updated look, right? Something a little even beyond the original Tron movie. Yeah, so there you go. Look how much that's already helped things. See, we get this nice, subtle reflections in here, and you can see them picking up the light cycle. And if you want, you really want to kind of pump it up, we could turn that up. We could juice it up. Now, if you look really closely, you can see that there's reflection values on other things in the scene too. Like this, there's some things happening, but we'll get into that. We're going to be focusing on this ground right now. I do want to juice this up a little more though. I think it's not, we got to do some squeezins on this. We got to do some squeezins. We need a little more. So I'm going to go ahead and crank that reflectivity. And the reason I'm going to do this, and by the way, I'm going to go ahead and activate our good old buddy limited region. I think you know why. If you paid attention in the last video, I'm going to do our kind of our fake PBR roughness trick on the ground. So now we have kind of that classic early 90s reflection gag going on. You can see the hard mirror-like reflections. And you know what? Maybe that's what you want. You're done. You've got your like nice subtle mirror reflections in there. That's it. You are done. But I want to soften this up a bit. I want to give it that more kind of roughness, diffuse look. So you know what we're going to do. We're going to jump into the good old bump map on the ground. We're going to stick with fractal bumps. Aha, look at that. See? Starting to get it's starting to soften up, starting to disappear, get that nice little, you know, we're losing that razor crisp, garish mirror reflection. And it's starting to look a lot softer. I'm already happy with that. I think right there. So we're going to leave that alone. And then the light cycles, right? We could add some love to those. Let's move over here. So it already does. It has some really low reflectivity on it at like 5%. Let's just crank it up. I really want to see what's going on with that. There we go. Now we've got this pretty aggressive reflection there, which looks neat. Looks very, you know, pinball machine, chrome thingy, 90s words. I need a script. I should get a writer. Again, we're going to do the same gag, activate anti-aliasing now that we know that the reflection level feels good. Actually, you know what? For this one, I'm going to go a little more aggressive. We're going to go 35. So again, what we're doing here with this bump on the, you know, is to try and soften the reflection, to kind of give it that roughness look. And that's the whole cheat we're trying to do here. We're trying to affect everything. You notice that specular is there too. That white highlight is from the light. And that's our specular. And it's also getting softened up, which is good. And it's looking pretty soft. I am liking that. We've really gotten rid of a lot of that hard line effect. I really do believe it's close, but I think I'm going to go all the way up to 90% on that. So let me go ahead and do the same values over on the red one. Look how neat that looks. That's the best word I could think of. Neat. But yeah, we've just done some, you know, subtle things. We quickly, as you saw, we fairly quickly banged out definitely an early 90s looking, early 80s even version of this, right? And just doing some of those modern tricks I've covered in the prior videos, you know, we soften this, give it some shadows, but you know, don't put shadows on the trails. We've added this nice soft reflection. That's right, soft reflection to the ground using this 30-year-old software way before PBR ever existed. We've given the bikes this nice little kind of soft reflection and specular look. And yeah, you might say like, well, you know, it looks neat, but it's still retro. Of course it is. That's what it's supposed to look like. We're supposed to, you know, try and maintain that original 90s look, early 90s look. There's one other thing we could do to try and give this one last bit of polish, and that's maybe get rid of that ambient light and fill it with a real light so that we kind of lose some of this kind of cartoony looking glow to the light cycles. And maybe we could do some lens effects here. Yeah, 30-year-old software does have lens effects we can do, camera lens stuff. Let's try that. All right, and yes, you can see a marked improvement there. And all we've simply done is turned off the ambient light. Actually, we dropped it down to 2%. I don't want anything to go into total blackness. And then we basically cloned to the key light, widened out its shadow map to soften it up even more. And as you can see a little bit of the rim there, and I tinted it blue. And yeah, you can see there's some of the shadow on the floor from that light. Right, so Q, how are we going to do this depth of field you're talking about? Well, yeah, Lightwave does include depth of field, so we're going to go ahead and turn on the anti-aliasing, and we're going to turn on depth of field. Now, see this focal distance here? This is the part we got to figure out. So where's our camera at? Our camera is here, our targets are here and here and here, right? So our camera is basically 1 unit away from this lead light cycle. It's going to be hard to get both of them in focus, I think, if I also want this to be out of focus. But we'll see. We'll see what we can do. We know each grid square is 5, right? So if we go to camera and we go to focal distance 5, that should put us, you know, basically focusing right on the nose of this light cycle, right? And we can do a really aggressive f-stop, like 0.1, something ridiculous. And we're gonna do, yes, our buddy limited region, absolutely. So as you can see, we've got a nice blurry mess. Focal point is not quite where it needs to be. So let me mess with the focal point for a minute here. It's basically, guys, just going back and forth trying to make sure you're getting the right distance, and also control your f-stop. If your f-stop is just ridiculously low, which I did make it ridiculously low, you need to bring it up. So I'm going to mess with these settings real fast. All right, so I've done some playing with the numbers here, and as you can see, if you look in close here, yeah, these guys are far enough apart that if I want to get any kind of sense of like background out of focusness with the depth of field here, I am losing the red guy a little bit. He's getting a little soft. Now I could cheat and bring him in closer for sure to fix that. But I actually do kind of like this effect as well. I mean, it's, you know, obviously whatever you're trying to accomplish, but this works. I think it illustrates the point that you can add nice lens effects or lensing effects to your renders. I think that looks pretty nice. This is still pretty jag. I know you might have commented these lines are still pretty noisy. We can go ahead and step up the anti-aliasing to try and fix some of that. Let me do that so I can give you kind of that final, hopefully as close as I can get to perfect pretty. So we'll set that to high. Should we just turn adaptive sampling off and just brute force the whole thing? I think we need to. I mean, we should be doing that anyway for the micro bump I'm doing to do the PBR. And of course, we need to turn our reflection back on. That did not have any of our reflection in it. So this is going to be our super pretty, and I believe our final image. So let me go ahead and save the scene and let it start chewing on the pixels. It's going to take some time. Yes, 1990 software running on modern hardware. It takes time, folks. It takes time. I'll see you on the other side. I now present to you a proper before and after. What we started with, and we built up pretty quickly, if you recall, we started with this. Very, very early 90s, heck, you know, mid to late 80s even, right? We got this up and running fairly quickly. But then, just with a little patience, couple tricks from the modern era that we've learned, we can make it look like this. And yeah, I mean, it gives it that extra level, right? And this is all totally doable with this 30-year-old software. You don't need to start off on Blender or Unreal and try to figure out how to make it look retro and old. You can just go back and use this old software. And as you can see, hopefully it's not that painful. I mean, you can get in here and create some stuff using the original tools still to this day. And obviously, if you get into animating it, it's going to take you a little longer. But I think hopefully, just you saw how fast I set this scene up. I mean, animating this stuff wouldn't be all that difficult, right? You could definitely get into that. Thanks to you guys out there, a viewer suggestion. I made this because of you. A viewer asked if I could maybe try some Tron stuff again and using some of these newer techniques I showed in that other video. So thank you again for that. And I always love hearing your comments down below. And I always appreciate that thumbs up, the old subatronic button if you're into that thing. YouTube, of course, has no idea what to do with my channel. It's rather hilarious. Anyway, I think that's it. Are you done with this one, Q? I'm done with this one.